Hey everybody, it's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, where I help agents like you succeed in selling insurance. And that is the purpose of today's very special program, where I'm now live taking your questions that you have about anything insurance related. So my goal in this video, I've got a couple of prepared questions from agents that have expressed some questions over the past couple weeks that I thought would make good content for a video specifically designed around answering what questions you have. So what I invite you guys to do, if you're just tuning in, if you've got questions, feel free to ask them in the live stream. I'll be happy to address them individually on anything at all. If you kind of have a burning question you need an immediate answer to, be happy to help, whether it's insurance carriers, selling techniques, lead questions, that kind of thing. And if you're watching this after the live stream is over, you're more than welcome to leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to address that personally. So let's get started with the questions here. So the first question I've got here is, how do you generate the best leads? Now, this is a pretty generic question, but pretty important to establish as well. The person that's asking this question obviously understands that the reality to success in selling insurance is having people to see. I'm actually reading a good book. It's actually sitting in my bathroom. I was reading it this morning, and it's Frank Bettcher's book. It's not the one that he's most well known for, which I think is How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success. It's his other book. It's how he multiplied. It's like, how do you multiply your income with success in selling? And he realized that one of the lessons he learned from one of his managers early on is that the insurance business is all about seeing the people. And what I believe for the functional advice that I would give you, if you're finding yourself in this position where you know you need people to see but you're struggling, the first thing I would suggest is look to what is successful in whatever it is that you're selling. Look to people who are already successful, if you have the opportunity to, and see what they're doing to become successful. What you'll find is the system itself is fairly simple. Most agents usually generate leads. They either pay for leads, or they do some kind of cold calling or referral generation strategy, and they make sure they see generally somewhere between 15 or more people a week in order to maximize their efforts in getting the most sales possible. So it depends on what you sell, of course, as to who this would be applied for. What I see, of course, in Final Expense, direct mail is king. In Medicare, I've seen success with agents who do direct mail, whether that's supplements or Advantage. In some cases, if you sell supplements, telemarketing can work well too. Mortgage protections, direct mail. But the key is to figure out what it is in your line of work that works really well, and then go all in. What I would advise you not to do is try to come up brand new, right out of the gate, with a whole new type of lead system that is untested and unproven. I went through this myself when I first started in the business. I started to tinker with the Final Expense approach and developed a whole new direct mail piece. And while it worked to a marginal extent, it wasn't nearly as good as the boring, tired old lead pieces that have been used for decades. So, and it cost me a good bit of lost opportunity in the sense I was spending all this money on these leads, getting some results, but not nearly as much if I just did what worked. So humble yourself, do what works. Take yourself under the instruction of somebody who is experienced, a mentor, if you will, and allow yourself to take their guidance. Make sure they're vetted, make sure they know what they're doing, and especially if they're a producer, take their advice and apply it without necessarily overthinking it. That's really, really important. Okay, so next question, kind of related to the first one, is I'm broke. I can't afford leads. What do I do? So you got a couple of options. Number one, I wouldn't quit your day job until you figure out how you can finance leads on your own if the ultimate goal is to purchase leads. It's not always the case, but I wouldn't start this business without knowing exactly where your leads are going to come from, let me put it that way, without putting yourself at financial risk. If you're broke, the best thing you can do, there's a couple of different options, of course. You can cold call. So when I say cold call, you can telemarket those people who are not on the do not call list. You can preferentially use a dialer that dials 2 or 3 lines a time, and then buy a list, say from listshack.com. I also like salesdialers.com. A lot of guys use that. And yes, there's a little money outlay there, but if you've got more time than money, then this is a good place to start. Alternatively, you can cold canvas. You don't necessarily need a list. You can just go out there and start knocking on doors. If you do business to business, same concept, same approach. In fact, that's what most people who sell to business owners do. They just cold call them or show up. So you're going to do that anyway, so you might as well. If you're doing something like, say, final expense or Medicare, another great way to prospect for final expense or Medicare business is to do seminars. I teach this system to my final expense agents who don't necessarily have the ability to outlay the multi-$1,000 investment in a direct mail campaign as they adequately should, but have the willpower to go out there and stand in front of an audience and weather the fear of talking to a group. Seminars work fantastic. It really doesn't matter if it's Medicare, final expense, or anything else. If you can get in front of a group of people and deliver a very good presentation on whatever your product is and talk about maybe the problems people have related to this problem, so the cost of funeral type of presentation, or educational Medicare seminar, or something like that, you're going to develop leads naturally from that. Seminars work great because, first of all, when you get up there and speak, it's assumed you're the expert. You may not know a tremendous amount. You may be a little nervous doing it, or very nervous, but these people are going to excuse that a lot, especially if you give them good information. And in return, because there's a reciprocal nature, you're giving them all this information, they're going to want to give you their business back, especially the ones that really are in the market right now to do business. Seminars are very powerful in that. And they're very high quality leads, and the cost to do them is negligible. I love it. I would do a ton of final expense seminars if I was full-time again back in the field. And I could do 5 or 6 a week. I mean, that's kind of how crazy I am when it comes to this. But it works so well, so it's something that I highly recommend. The other thing you can do if you're broke and you can't afford leads, look, I said don't quit your day job. You can always start the selling of insurance, whatever it is you're doing, part-time, and keep your day job. Yeah, that may mean you only can do a couple of appointments a week, but I tell agents it's better to have a full-time commitment, even if you're on a part-time basis. So just because you're part-time doesn't mean you're going to just dabble. You want to be committed to a schedule. Maybe you go out 2 or 3 days a week. Those are your specific field days. Commit to it. And look, you're not going to get as much production as you would full-time, but you'll get some, and you can develop some sort of self-financing so you can leave. You have some savings set up. You give yourself all the time in the world without applying the kind of stress. If you're in a position where you just don't have any money and you have to make the mortgage payment, it's not a good place to be in. I was in this position when I failed out of final expense originally. I got a job at Aramark, which is a uniform sales position. Hated it. And I realized, hey, I could do this and still sell final expense at the same time. And it took me a year before I got rid of the job and went back full-time into final expense. But that year was really important because I could make the sales, I could sell final expense, but I didn't have to stress about, oh my gosh, I have to make sales. This week was horrible, and if this next week's horrible, I'm done. So having that and being totally a workaholic in that whole time period was fine because it gave me a lot of breathing room to just make the sales when they're there, be confident, be patient, and allow myself to accumulate savings to put myself in the position to where, hey, when the time's right, boom, I'm out of this job, back full-time in what I really want to do. So, or last but not least, if you're not in a position to do this, you don't want to take a part-time job, or maybe your job's too much. Look, here the other option is you save up your own money. You take the time that it takes to save up and put away so much every month. My recommendation to getting started in any kind of business is you want to have several months worth of savings to take care of your expenses, or hopefully have a spouse to help offset some of those expenses to get started. You need to have a realistic perspective. We all think, oh great, we're going to come into this and just tear it up. And that may happen for some of us, but a lot of us struggle in the beginning. That's totally fine. It is the vetting filter that we all go through, that if you can get through it, it's great. So expect the worst, plan as best as you can, but expect the worst in the sense that you're prepared if you have some swings, and let yourself get through that learning process. And that can take 6 months to 12 months depending on what you sell. So bottom line, there are strategies that you can utilize if you don't have the money right now to get into a purchase lead program. If you're looking at some of these products I usually recommend, like final expense, Medicare, mortgage protection, and just commit to an alternative strategy, just all the same, no matter if you can't get full-time right out the gate. Question number 3, this one is a pretty good question, is from, I'm not sure who it's from, but it's a great question just for a lot of new guys. woohoo, I just got licensed, now what? So a lot of people get into this profession because they got referred in from somebody else. Maybe they heard about this great opportunity through this multi-level marketing organization, and they say, come on board, and maybe they don't go follow through with it, or something happens, but they've got this license, and they don't really know what to do. So the first thing is, great, you're on this video, you're listening to this, so this is going to help you get some guidance. But what you need to do is figure out what kind of market you think works best for your type of personality. So when I got started in this business, I was attracted to selling seniors. I liked working with people who were in the older age category. The main reason was there's a tremendous amount of people who are aging into the senior age range. And there will be a predominance of people who have this, or will exist in this age range for the next couple of decades. And in my mind, I thought, well, if this is the case, I want to market to these people because they have an express need. And I also knew that on one side, there's a ton of money in the baby boomer segment, but on the other side too, there's a lot of people who are poor, who would fit the profile of somebody who would want to buy final expense life insurance. So I decided to go that route because there was a market opportunity there. And then the other aspect of it is because final expense was a one-call close. It wasn't a technical close. It wasn't selling something like an annuity or a complex life insurance product. I didn't need a tremendous amount of training to understand how it works and sell it. I just needed to get out there and see people and help them. And at the time when I was looking to get insurance, that made perfect sense. Now, final expense may not be the right choice for you. You may want something that's more renewal driven and you like a more technical product. Medicare is a great example of that. Or perhaps annuities if you're looking for, you want to be more in a financial capacity, an advisor to a middle class type of senior. That's fine. Or maybe you want to do something else entirely. You want to work with business owners. Maybe you've been in the business yourself and you'd like to help business owners with disability insurance, term insurance, voluntary payroll deduct insurance. There's all sorts of things you can do. But the important thing is to find one thing that you think really appeals to you. Find somebody to learn from. Do a lot of internet searches. You can ask me. I can refer you to people who I think would be good. I got a lot of contacts in this business. And then commit completely to it. When I say commit completely to it, that means over the next 6, 12 months, do nothing but one product. And then as you master that product, then you can potentially start to add other products at will. But what I see a lot of successful agents do is they focus on one thing and they go all in on that one thing because there's so much to know. Even with a non-technical product like final expense, you're probably not going to be in the position of absorbing in Medicare and then annuities all within a 6-month period of time. I'm pretty smart, and I didn't do that because I was totally just be distracting to get away from the core type of business. So the key thing for you new guys in the business, or maybe you're getting back into this business and you want to kind of where to start, figure out a niche. Watch my interview videos. I got a ton on my channel that definitely help you kind of outline what your options are. Stick to that niche, find a mentor, and stick with it for at least 6 to 12 months before starting to fool around with something else. All right, I got a question here. Gerardo, hey, Mr. Garcia. Great videos on your channel. I'm 4 months in with Lincoln Heritage. What works in your experience to get referrals, and also regarding a way to incentivize them for each referral that sells? Great question. So let me first direct you to a great video of an interview I did with Claude Whitaker. If you go up to YouTube search and put in David Duford and Claude Whitaker, you're going to see an interview. The picture of the video, it's Claude's, you can't miss him. He's got a bald head, and he's got the picture of his book, I think, on the front of it. Excellent interview. It is the best referral training I've ever gotten in my life. And what Claude teaches you is not just to ask for a few names, which that works great too, but to interweave the entire referral mentality from beginning to end of your sales process, where you're teaching your prospects as you sell them that the way to do business with you is referrals. Normally, maybe they came in off of a lead or a cold call or whatever, but your way of doing business is all referrals, and your clients always refer. So you set these kind of touch points through the entire sales presentation where you begin to make this point out that, and then in return, they understand it's natural and expected to have somebody refer business to you. So watch that whole thing. I actually had a guy who is a multi-million-dollar insurance agency. He's a marketer by profession. He's been doing this for several decades. When I first talked to him, I picked up on this, that he said, everybody refers me business. This is how I don't pay money on marketing. I think it's stupid. Everybody who does business with me refers somebody. They refer 2 or 3 people. That's just a natural way. And he planted that kind of anchor in my mind, where I was thinking at the end of the call, I was like, man, this guy's cool. Maybe I could send him a few people. I was like, oh wow, it actually works. So it's very smart way to do business. Now the other thing you can do is I'll kind of shorten it out. The key thing with referral generation is just to ask, okay? And the best time to ask is at the point of sale, after the culmination, the climax, if you will, when they've bought, they're approved, they're happy. Now is the time to make a sale, okay, on referring. The second best chance would be when you deliver the policy, if you do that. The way you do that is you say, hey, as you're wrapping up, say, are you happy with what you have here today? Is this something that you think is useful to you? Well, let me ask you a favor. Let me tell you a little bit more about what I do. Normally, I work with people who refer. I prefer to work with people who refer their friends, family to me, because I just like to help people out that I've helped out. And a lot of people know there's people out there who need life insurance. So my question to you is, could you give me 2 names of people that maybe a brother, a sister, or your kid that you've thought about that maybe has said they need life insurance, or maybe you think they need life insurance? I'd like their name and number so I could contact them and just show them what I do, no stress, no pressure, or whatever like that. That's a very basic approach. It works. Again, it doesn't work so much because it's some amazing, word, salad here. It works because you just do it. Okay, that's 80% here, guys. Don't worry too much about strategy, or don't worry too much about tactics as much as it's strategy. And if you do anything, if you don't go to that recording, just implement that strategy, okay, by doing it. If you just ask and you do a good job through the whole sales presentation and ask, you'll get referrals from some of these people. And you'll get a hell of a lot more than if you didn't ask. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to be beautiful saying it. You just have to do it, okay? So next question, hope that helps. Next question here is, let's see here. I'm not sure if now's the time to start selling insurance. Okay, so yeah, this, again, a lot of people, they see the opportunity in this business. They see that there is the ability to have freedom, to really have no upper scale on what they can make income-wise, to live a lifestyle that they like, and all while actually helping people with a product that's beneficial. But they're afraid to get started, and they're just not sure. Well, I can tell you this, guys. You'll never be sure. You've got to take a chance on yourself. And there's always, in every biography, every sales training book I read, there is always a pivot point where somebody reaches in their lives, where they have a point. And nobody knows what's going to happen. The circumstances that surround it and the events that draw up to it are unique to everybody. But there's going to be, if there's not already, a decision point in your life where you have to make a decision, where you can go one direction or you can go another direction. You can go the status quo, or you can take a leap of faith. And that's what my point is, guys. I think there's something when you take a leap of faith into an unknown, like selling insurance, to take a risk, that there's a point where you can't be sure. Okay, you may have some good facts, you may have a good understanding of the business, you may have a good feel for it, but you're going to have to take that leap of faith to the next level. And it's something that you have to personally decide on. And then when you decide it, when you recognize what you're doing, you have to fully commit. You have to burn the bridges, okay? So what I hate in this business, there's 2 things I hate. I hate to see people who logically understand this, but emotionally don't have the fire to take the next step, to at least try. Because I envision a point in some people's lives where they reach the end of their career and they've worked for somebody else. They've not been happy with where they are in their life. And they know, they look back, and they know they had opportunities. Everybody has opportunities to take a step forward to improve themselves, no matter their background, okay? I don't want people to be in a state of regret. The other thing I regret is that when people aren't fully committed, they kind of like the idea and they take a few baby steps out, kind of taking a risk, but maybe something doesn't go the way it should, and they revolt back, and they get scared. They don't do anything, and that's unfortunate. Look, I've run several businesses in my life, and my first business failed. My business completely failed, the personal training business I had. The first time I got into final expense, I almost went broke. okay, because of stupid ideas and things that came into my head that I couldn't control myself for. And so it's not like the people who get through this and are successful never experience problems. You're going to, okay? You have to embrace that. But what people who are on the other side of the coin now, who've been through this, will tell you that those are instructive moments in their lives to help get them through and elevate themselves to the next level. Failures are great opportunities to learn and to improve. And if you're afraid of that risk, if you're afraid of this, and you never take a chance, you're never going to grow. You're never going to experience things in life. Forget all the money or the lifestyle. You're never going to reach your full potential. To me, that's the biggest downside to just sitting on the sidelines and watching this. So what's the short answer to that? Now's the time. If you recognize your ability and desire to do something in this business, if you recognize that you hate whatever it is that you're doing right now, it does not satisfy you. You've got one life, man. Now is the time to do something about this. So please, do something about it, okay? Just do it. All right, next question here. I want to build an agency. When's the best time to start? All right, so this is for my multi-level marketing friends out there. This is a great question. Insurance, to me, is something you're completely allowed to recruit. Look, one of the great things in my venue I have here, my ability is to come up here and preach to you how you can free yourselves from the 9-to-5 grind in an actual business where there is a desire and need for the service of insurance. And I recruit, okay? Guilty as charged. But what I think is important before you begin the recruiting process is you have to have at least a year's worth of solid sales experience. Now that's going to vary between whether you're in final expense or Medicare, mortgage protection, or whatever. I think the important thing is to go through the ups and downs, okay? I mean, the fact that I've failed several times is good to you, right? Because I can share with you what worked and what definitely didn't. Maybe I can save my agents the pain of going through a failure experience, because I can share and relay mine. What the problem a lot of these multi-level marketing organizations do is as soon as you come on board, as soon as you sign your name, not before even the pen leaves your insurance agency contract, you're put into a, look, you can recruit your friends, family members, and everybody you love right now, and they can do just the same thing, and you can make some money too. When the thought should pass your mind is like, wait a minute, I don't even know who I represent or what companies I have or what the real world is like. What business does somebody like that have to recruit other people, right? You're doing a disservice. I look at this as an industry-wide problem. We have all these people that recruit in people that don't know how to train them. And in exchange, we have a bunch of ignorant insurance agents. Many times not because of their own faults, just because they trust the people who bring them in. Just like they trust a boss at a normal company that's not a multi-level marketing company to know the knowledge, to understand the product, and then be able to teach it to them. So on one hand, people who get in this business, there's some who are just going to take up on it and they're self-studies and they're great. Those are our more entrepreneurial types. But most of us aren't strictly employees, aren't strictly entrepreneurs. We're kind of somewhere in between. We've got kind of like blended shades of both. And part of that is you're going to need direction. You need guidance. You're going to need somebody to hit ideas off of. In fact, hell, even entrepreneurs need that, or strictly 100%. So don't recruit right out the gate. Let yourself be successful. Write business, okay? Experience whatever business you're in. Look, a year in, and you've done decently. You don't have to kill it either, but you've done better than just failing. You've done average or better. Look, that's fine. That's a great opportunity, a great time. Start bringing in agents to come in underneath you and teaching the craft you've learned up to that point to them. So take your time with recruiting. For me personally, I didn't start till 2 years in, 2.5 years in. But I had ups and downs by that point. I had great successes, great failures, and I felt like I brought something useful to the game. And and you may find out too that you just love personally producing on your own. Again, give yourself that opportunity, because I can tell you one thing about recruiting, it's totally different than selling insurance policies, okay? You've got to have a different skill set. You've got to have a different attitude. You've got to have a different disposition than somebody who is a hardcore top producer, somebody who's a recruiter, manager, trainer, whatever, mentor. Totally different skill set. Sometimes people are better at one than another. Sometimes you can have blended. I think I'm good at both, but I'm definitely a better mentor, sales trainer than I am a producer. And I'm pretty good at a sales trainer, or being a sales producer. But it's something that's It's hard to explain. It's just a different skill set. And anybody who's recruited knows exactly what I mean, too. Hey, Lynn, Mr. and Mrs. Lynn, sorry about that. I've been doing cold calling. This question from the live stream. I've been doing cold calling for a while now, and I still don't know how to deal with I don't need this when they hear me say things about insurance. Tell me what you're selling, first of all, and then I can kind of guide you, if you don't mind replying to that. And I'm going to go on to this next question, and I promise I'll get back to yours. Next question here. I'm getting chargebacks on lapsed policy sales. What can I do? Okay. So lapsed policies, chargebacks. If you're new to insurance sales, chargebacks are where you've gotten in advance, essentially a loan that's collateralized by your policy, and the policy is lapsed, it's canceled, it is insufficient fund drafts, and now that money is due back, okay? Because when your advance commissions on a sale, it's not earned money until all of the months collected that you're advanced for have been passed through. So with life insurance products, you're advanced 75% in most circumstances. That's 9 months worth of commissions. If you 3 pay in and it lapses, you owe back 6 months. So as you can see, this can become very problematic if you're getting a lot of lapses. And now you're owing more money than what you're coming in. So you could be making sales, but you're paying down this lapse advance chargeback type of deal. So how do you overcome this? What happens if you experience this? So the great thing about selling insurance is that, I'm not going to say it's a great thing per se. The unique thing about selling insurance is that it's not like selling a one-off type of product where you collect the whole thing up front and you maybe shift the risk to a financing company. So what I mean by that is with an insurance sale, you're not selling a car, clears the 3-day period of a refund, and then no matter if they can afford it or not, it's theirs and you make your money. In the insurance business, you as the agent are on the hook for the next 9 months if you're selling a life product at least. So that means if you sell Mildred a final expense policy, she's got 270 days to wake up and say, this sucks, I can't afford this, got to pay my rent. So this implies a lot of ways that you have to sell in order to sell effectively. So first of all, I think the big thing is that you should sell in a way that is low pressure and is educational and consultative. This is why you hear me preach all the time in my sales training videos that you shouldn't be hard sell. You shouldn't, hard close. You shouldn't pressure people into buying something that's outside of their budget. I probably don't sell as much as I could, but I keep a lot more than I otherwise would because I'm very sensitive to hearing the budgets of the people that I meet with. Why? Because I want those policies to stay. I don't want these policies to lapse in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. Not just to protect my own income and future income and the advanced income, but also so my clients have their policies, right? I don't want them to be in an economic position where they got to let this go because they bit off more than they can chew, right? It's not good for them. It's not good for me. And so what I prefer to do is to sell to their budget to make sure it's affordable. And in exchange, what I do, or in addition, I also educate my client on the alternative to what it is that I'm selling. So maybe if you're selling mortgage protection insurance and they get this letter from Mutual of Omaha, and it's a $300,000 common carrier plan that's $10 a month, and it says term on it or something. Well, they're going to think, well, this is 10, and yours is 80, and they do this 2 or 3 months after they buy, and they cancel that one. Well, how could you have prevented that? Well, if you had had an interwoven in the conversation, an educational presentation about here's what your options are, here's accidental coverage. This seems cheap, but it only covers accidental. They kind of try to hide that from you. And so I need you to be aware of this because here's how mine's different. It's accidental plus natural death. And then go into the details of differentiation there. So for me, I think you got to think about the things that people will object to and cover those well in advance. Cover those in your presentation, your pre-qualification questions. Overcome those potential objections and sticking points, because if they don't even object to it, but it becomes a problem during the advance period, you could possibly lose a chargeback. You need to cover that stuff now. And so you got to sell the correct way. You got to sell patiently. You got to sell at least cognizant that money is an issue, because anybody can hard sell anybody into something. But look, you're gone the next day. You're not going to prevent them from calling the carrier up to cancel. Okay, so you got to take thought with how you're selling. So I'm big on with chargebacks, sell appropriately, low key, in an educational manner, and never push. If you're gonna be insistent and build internal pressure. reminding them of why they did what they did to send this card back or request the information, reminding them what they said as to why they want to buy this. And if you sell correctly, you can use their own information they gave you to rebuttal the objections they have to create that urgency to close the deal. But never apply pressure for the sake of you making a sale, because it's going to come back to you. And I can tell you, it's better to lose a few deals that may or may not have gone if you applied pressure than it is to sell those and then experience chargebacks. It changes your demeanor. You've got commission breath where you got to make every sale that you run into, even though it's statistically impossible. And it kind of begets, chargebacks create more chargebacks scenarios because it puts too much pressure. So take your time, sell the appropriate way, and it should be a little bit easier. Okay, so saving insurance and life insurance. So here's how I would phrase this. So this is questions in the live stream. I'll repeat this just so everybody's on the same page. I've been doing cold calling for a while, and I still don't know how to deal with I don't need this when they hear me saying things about life insurance. So let me address this first of all. So when somebody objects, how much do they even really know about your product, right? So in this case, probably very little, zero practically. As we know as life insurance professionals, we know as licensed life insurance professionals, there's all sorts of product types: universal, whole life, index universal life, term life insurance. There's different riders or different companies. There's life insurance just isn't like something, right? But what people try to do is they try to take what you say and compartmentalize it to something that they can understand and then make a decision yes or no over. So that's normal human reaction, especially when really underlying that is they just don't want to get in a sales presentation. They have resistance towards being sold something. They don't want to deal with the frustration, the hassle of someone to come into their house and all. That's what they're really saying. And that impetus is pushing on them more than what you're saying, whatever you're saying in your script. So when they say something like, I don't need this, that's just their way of dealing with and simplifying the complicated and really just not, and getting around what they really don't want is to have you in their house. So how do you overcome that? So I teach a rebuttal script where the concept is really just to walk over that, is to rebuttal that, and then to sell the appointment, okay? So you don't need to go, what you don't want to do, and if you're experiencing this on the phone and you're calling, you don't want to be like, well, let me tell you about this great savings life insurance plan. It's got this underlying account, it's tied to the market, but you're protected on the downside. Like if you're saying all this on the phone, you've already failed, okay? Because you're not really rebuttaling their true objection. What they're really objecting to is meeting with you and the hassle that it'll probably cause. So you want a brief explanation as to why you should meet, and then spend the majority of your rebuttal selling them on meeting them, okay? Because that's really the objection. So what it would sound like in this circumstance would be like, hey, Mrs. Jones, that's totally fine. A lot of people say that when I first call them, but this is entirely different, and it's in some ways maybe even better than what you got. That's all I say to explain it off script there. Now back on script. All I need from you, Mrs. Jones, is 5 minutes to explain to you how this works. What you do with the information is entirely up to you. If you like it, great. If not, you can throw me out. We'll still be friends. How's Tuesday at 2? So the process here is saying, hey, that's fine. And then a lot of people say that when I first speak with them. But the reason they meet with me anyway is because this is totally different than what they've ever seen before. I mean, it can be a vague explanation. You can do a little bit more specific. This is a totally new product. It's totally exciting to a lot of people, something like that. But that's all you need to do. Don't go in any more explanation, and then just continue to sell. Go right in after you say, hey, look, this is totally different than what you've got. All I need is 5 minutes to show you what this is about. You can say 5, 10, 15, whatever you're comfortable with. All I need is 10 minutes to show you how this works. What you do with the information is entirely up to you. How's Tuesday at 2, or would 10 be better? Always close for the appointment at the end. You can do everything I just described there, but if you don't close it, it's not going to go, okay? It's just going to kind of sit out there in the ethers, and it's not going to do anything. So you got to tell them what to do. You're directing the conversation. So some of these people are going to be like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. 5 minutes, is that sure all you need? Okay, cool. So, or if they'll say, why don't you send me the information? Say, hey, if there's a lot of people will reply to that. Say, hey, that's fine. I totally understand that. A lot of people ask me to send them the information, but again, this is completely different than what you're used to seeing. It all only takes me 5 minutes to show you, and then you can do whatever you want with it. So it's almost like the same rebuttal script, because again, what you're doing here is you're rebuttaling the underlying objection, okay? The underlying objection being, I don't want to meet with this person. I'm too busy. I don't want to be sold. And so you got to sell against that. So you almost have to listen. You don't want to put too much stock in their objection, their rational objection. It's just a cover for the knee-jerk, salesperson, emotional thing, but this is what they say to try to detract you and get rid of you, okay? Let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. I'll be happy to address it. By the way, for you guys popping on here, as I'm almost over with the live stream here, if you've got any questions, anything at all about life insurance, from selling, prospecting, carriers, problems you're having, feel free to ask them in the live stream. If you're watching this after the fact, you can leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to address it personally. Final question here. Favorite insurance sales books you can recommend? So let me go ahead and do a couple of these. I'm looking at my bookcase where I regularly collect well-known and not so well-known insurance books. And what I'll do now is share a couple of my favorite ones and then explain to you why I like them a lot. So the first one here, probably one of the first ones I bought, and I'll tell you too, if you're new, which ones you should get, and if you're experienced, which ones are very helpful. So of course, the Ben Feldman at the Feldman Method. This is a classic. A little hard to find for a reasonable price. I think you can buy it at mdrt.org if you're on their account, if you got an account with them. This is a great book if you sell to business owners. This talks about Ben Feldman, legendary life insurance agent with New York Life, Guinness World Book record holder for volume and premium size. Definitely worth the time. I like also, again, if you sell business owners or professionals, anything by Burt Myzel is great. This guy is a wonderful writer, great trainer, and has great practical lessons on how to actually sell and present life insurance options to business owners. Definitely anything you can find on him is great. Let's see what else here I like. I actually like, as much as a lot of people don't like A.L. Williams for a variety of reasons, A.L. Williams is fantastic. This book is fantastic. I really enjoyed reading this. This is the book about his amazing rise to success in the insurance business, and how he basically, through really the loss of his father, learned about term insurance and how his crusade to spread the message to a lot of other people through his organization incurred, and how he was successful. It's a really good read. I like it a lot. I also like, let's see what else here. I want to share with this. This one's really good too. This is by Randall Baskin. Okay, it's Growing Rich, applied with faith and principles. This is kind of based sort of off of, it's kind of like a Napoleon Hill type of book. Really good read about Mr. Baskin's life history. He started as a poor ruralite in Middle Tennessee, and it's about as poor as you can get. And he details it all in his book. And then he created American Continental, of which he sold, I believe he sold it to Genworth, which now is owned by Aetna. It's passed hands a few times, but was just a rags to riches success story. Great man, great book to read, very inspiring, especially for you people who doubt yourselves. If you read books like this, or like even A.L. Williams' story, these guys are from the South, they're poor, they became very successful, and you have no excuses anymore when you read books like that, because if these guys can do it, you can too. Really, it's true. That's a good book too. Let's see what else here. Anything by John Savage is good. This is The Easy Sale. I'm not sure. Did I read this one? The pages are falling out. Yeah, I read this one. The Easy Sale is great if you sell to business owners. Very good book. Let's see what else here. I'm going to try to pull out one or two more that are worth reading. Oh yeah, this one's by a guy named Jeff Root. This is a rather newer book. It's called The Digital Life Insurance Agent. Good primer on how to sell insurance online, and some basic resources regarding search engine optimization, paid leads, that kind of thing, generating ads, leads online. Of course, I'll recommend, if you're interested in selling final expense, I have a final expense book. You can find it on Amazon or my website. It's called The Official Guide to Selling Final Expense Insurance. I'll be coming out with a handful of more books, specifically for mortgage protection, selling insurance in general, some sales tactics no matter what you sell. I've got a great interview book coming out here momentarily where I've taken a lot of these interviews I've done and we're going to put them in the written format. It's going to be fantastic. Plus, I'm losing, what else am I got going on? Something else. Got a lot of books coming out here soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Yeah, Richard, good to see you. Good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing fine. Mr. Lynn, or Mrs. Lynn, sorry about that, replies, thanks. So if they reject me again, should I give up or go in detail? That's a good question. So this is as a broader way to describe his question. Should you, what point should you stop rebuttaling? I think it's a good strategy to stop after the second one. So let's say they reply to that and they say, I'm not interested in insurance. And then they say, well, can you send me some information? You want to rebuttal that, okay? Don't let that one go. Maybe after the third one you stop, but I'll tell you this, at the end of the day, as you do this over and over and over again, become a master at dealing with people on the phone and the dynamics unique to phone sales, you'll develop an intuition and an instinct if the objection they're giving you is real or if it's just made up or an excuse. Okay, so in the beginning, you just have to follow the steps and the systems. You know, rebuttal it, rebuttal two, maybe on a third one if you know, maybe you should rebuttal. Again, it just depends on how they say things. A lot of times it's how they say it. You know, sometimes they'll be interested, and you can hear it in their voices. But you'll have to take time to develop the skill, and that's only done by repetition and calling a tremendous amount. So give yourself the opportunity to do that, and you'll get better. But yes, don't give up after the first one. Try again. But use the same phraseology. You know, use the same process. Just kind of change up the reason why they meet anyway type of process, and then sell the appointment, because that's what you got to do. You got to sell the appointment. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today. Again, I recommend if you have any questions, you're watching this after the fact, leave me a comment below. Do like and subscribe if you haven't to this channel already. I do videos Monday through Friday on all things insurance sales. My goal here on the YouTube channel is to help you. I want you to survive in this business so that you can enjoy the fruits of what the insurance business offers to those who fight hard and survive, and so that you can help other people too, and to help them with their insurance needs, because we need it. We need you out here to do this. There's no Amazon.com or AI or some robot, and definitely some flunky at a home office that's going to replace the insurance agents and what they can do to help people. So that's why I'm here. That's what I do. That's why I do what I do. My name is Dave Duford, and we're logging out. See you next time. Take care.